Hi Noshers, my name is Micah, the host of Not Your Bubby's Nosh, a conversation about your favorite and least favorite Jewish foods, your go-to source for holiday meal inspiration, and a place to discuss and kvetch about which bubby made it best. Today, I want to know if vegan pork products are kosher. I know that sentence, if I would have said that 5 years ago, you would have been like, wait, what? What does that even mean? Because with the rise of plant-based diets and protein alternatives, there's never been more options out there for different proteins that are made from plants. And that includes things like Impossible Beef, Beyond Beef, there's Beyond Chicken, there's soy chorizo, there is eggs made out of mung beans. There is everything. You can even get shrimp made out of like some sort of cognac fiber powder. I think it's a seaweed type thing. I don't really know. I think it kind of tastes like rubber, to be honest. But there are so many options. So for context, when I was younger, I wanted to become a vegetarian, as many people do. And my parents were like, what do we feed you? So they hired a dietitian to show us how to navigate meal times if I was not eating meat. So we had this like whole thing about, okay, this is what a protein is. This is how much protein you need. And this is how to get it, which was so helpful. And I mean, if you're thinking about going plant-based, shoot me a DM. I'm also a dietitian and we can chat. I'm always happy to bend someone's ear about plant-based proteins. I love beans. But at the time, there was really only one or two options for protein. You could get chickpeas, hummus, tofu, and like textured vegetable protein, which isn't yummy. It tastes like cardboard, but it just like soaks up whatever sauce you put it in. So with that rise of plant-based eaters in the world, companies are like looking for new and innovative products and ways to replicate the taste of meat, the texture of meat, and really get people on board with trying vegan or plant-based alternatives, not only for their health. I mean, most plant-based alternatives aren't necessarily healthier for you, but many of them are healthier for the planet. So I think that that's probably where a lot of those things come from. But like if you've ever tried Impossible Beef or Beyond Beef, like they are so meaty. How do they do it? How do they do it? I don't want to know because I've never been a huge red meat eater. It's never been my favorite. But like this stuff is so meaty. It's almost too meaty for me. And there are so many technological advances in the realm of food and food science that like they can replicate like a bloody beef burger using plant derivatives. It's wild. So beef kind of came first. They're doing some more chicken ones like Beyond Chicken, or there's one called Daring, and they're becoming more mainstream. But something that's gotten more mainstream in the past couple of years is pork and bacon and alternatives for those foods. And so as a Jew, when we've never enjoyed those foods or eaten those foods, or if you have, that's totally fine too. You practice the way you want to practice and you do you. But as a Jew, like if that's always been off the table, not necessarily by choice, but by upbringing, by virtue, by religion or something, is it now on the table? Is it kosher? Like, what does that look like? So let's dive into a little bit about that. And let's talk about first what kosher means, right? So I think a lot of us have like the general understanding of what is kosher and what isn't, but like, where does that come from? So to be kosher certified, you have to be verified by a rabbinic coordinator that looks at ingredients, the facility, and makes sure that everything meets a certain set of guidelines and requirements. And so they're endorsed as kosher if they have that OU on the label. And sometimes if there's a reformulation or a change in process or something, they can actually lose that OU. So if you're kosher, like follow it to each product and not just kosher style, like sometimes you even have to make sure that your favorite products are still kosher. So OU means that the product is kosher. It contains no dairy or meat or derivatives of those products. And it wasn't made on the same equipment that makes dairy or meat products either. So something like oats. Oats could be OU kosher, but like something, if oats are made on the same processing facility as, let's say, a whey powder, it would not be OU. It would be on OU-D. So OU-D it's a dairy product. It's being made on dairy equipment. It may contain dairy or derivatives of dairy. And then OUM or meat, it's obviously a meat product or made with the same processing facilities or equipment as meat. There's one for fish, and then OU-P is Passover and Parv. And so there's a lot of different symbols for kosher food, but we're not going to dive into that because that sounds less than exciting to chat about on a podcast, if you ask me. And I'm not here to put you to sleep. I want to learn with you, is vegan bacon and vegan pork kosher? So Impossible Pork is a newer product from Impossible. I don't even know if I've seen it, but it could just be in the planning stages. I'm not 100% sure, but OU, or the kosher certification body, will not approve Impossible Pork, even though the ingredients, the processes, and the facilities are kosher. Impossible Pork is vegetarian by the ingredients and has no animal-based derivatives in it. But the board did not approve it because it was labeled as pork and or bacon, and it resembles pork. So Jewish law actually prohibits actions that appear to violate Jewish law. And this could also cause a lot of confusion. Like, how wild and interesting is that? So there's nothing not kosher about it. It could be, in essence, fully kosher if they called it anything but bacon or pork. If they called it, what would be a fun little name for this? Like if it was called Impossible Oink. I don't know why. That was the first thing that came to mind, and now I'm regretting that. But Impossible Oink could be possibly kosher, but Impossible Pork is a no-no. That's so interesting. And a part of it is because approving Impossible Pork could, in fact, undermine the credibility of the kosher certification board or brand. And it could become a huge marketing issue. In the past, there were some OU certified bacons that weren't pork-based, but there was a little bit of confusion and backlash consumers. Maybe they weren't totally comfortable with it. They didn't fully understand it. It was a little confusing. You go your entire life seeing the word pork or bacon and being like, nope, not for me. It's not for me. It's not in the spirit of kashrut, people would say. And eating non-pork pork doesn't align with Jewish cultural practices. But then it also makes me question, like, was the turkey bacon I grew up eating kosher? I don't know. I don't know if it was, because we ate a ton of turkey bacon, and I feel like a lot of delis had that as an option, but maybe because it says turkey at the beginning, it's like it's okay. So I don't know. But yeah, there is Empire Kosher Turkey Bacon. That's like, why? Why is turkey bacon okay, but like plant bacon is not? I don't know. I don't quite know. But regardless, I mean, turkey bacon is just a mixture of light and dark turkey ground and pressed into a bacon-like form. That's like what it says online. Wow. That sounds so unappetizing. But apparently plant-based bacon may not be kosher. I don't know if it's Impossible specific, or if they just said like bacon-like substitute or bacon substitute. Would that be okay? I'm not 100% sure. And I think that's a really interesting thing. Maybe we could ask someone who works at Impossible or at the kosher certification board to say, like, at what point would it be called that? And I did read that some religious Jews noted that like existing fake bacon products already have a hesher. So, which means like they're kosher. So maybe the debate about impossible pork isn't relevant. And this is just a small group of individuals who feel uncomfortable about it. At the same tune, lab-grown meat was first considered parve, so not dairy or meat, but now it is considered meat. So there's so much gray area. And I think it's because I would say, I don't even know if it's a think, I believe, and it makes sense that the way food is made now between processing and farming and how it gets onto your plate is wildly different to when many of these laws were introduced. Like, people could never have imagined that a microwave would exist 150, 200, 300 years ago. It would have been absolute sorcery. And so I wonder how these laws would change if they were written in the lens of today, right? Whereas like, I never thought lab-grown meat could exist, and I'm only in my 30s. So even within my lifetime, the way that food is made and brought to the table is so different. There's so many advances of food technology with alternative proteins, and that kind of may result in traditional Jewish foodways might be lost, right? Like, what about a kosher kitchen with separate dishes for meat and dairy? I grew up with a kitchen like that. We had meat plates, milk plates, meat cutlery, milk cutlery. Now we're a pescatarian family, so we just have one where everything's like there's no meat plates or anything like that. But if I were to start eating meat again, I would probably have a separate kitchen or a kitchen set, just because that's what I'm used to. And I now just have one set of dishes because plant-based meats can be served with dairy, like hello cheeseburgers, hello pepperoni pizza, all with plant-based alternatives. So I guess in short, these products are not necessarily kosher, but not because the ingredients themselves are not, but because the concept and the naming and the confusion might be a little bit too much and too close to the actual food item that this non-meat analog isn't kosher by those standards. And that's such an interesting thing to grasp and concept to grasp. And it reminds me of when there were conversations about quinoa being kosher for Passover. So I grew up in an Ashkenazi family. And so that means that we didn't eat corn, beans, cabbage, rice, many of those things during Passover. And that was like a very big thing about Passover. It was basically we didn't eat grains during that time, and we were just constipated eating matzah. But when I married into a Sephardic family who ate rice, corn, beans, and cabbage and whatnot, like, I felt a lot of confusion, guilt, uncertainty about this new way of eating during Passover. And I mean, now I will eat beans, but I still am iffy about the corn and rice because there's that confusion and I feel weird about it. So would I feel that same weirdness eating impossible pork? Do I have a desire to try it? Maybe the bacon, maybe like I used to love turkey bacon, and there are some vegan bacon alternatives out there that are, I don't know if they're accurate or not, but like they taste good. I have a coconut bacon in my pantry right now, which is just smoked coconut chips. But that confusion, and when rules change or when nuances change or are updated, it can be so confusing. Could you imagine, like, if tomorrow one of the big shot rabbis who approve these things was like, you know what, actually the laws have changed and now we can eat pork or shellfish, or now actually meat and milk are okay together? Like, would you feel comfortable? Would you feel comfortable? Would you feel guilt? Would that Jewish guilt kick in? I don't know. I can't answer that for you. But I think for myself, with my experience during Passover, when some of those rules changed or my family dynamic changed with marrying someone from Sephardic traditions, and I felt really, really weird. Like it was I still won't eat corn. It still makes me feel guilty. And I choose to eat beans because if we're plant-based, then it means I don't have to eat nuts and seeds and eggs every day for a week. And I can at least have like a can of chickpeas. So I think that the whole concept of kosher, what is and what isn't, and wondering and asking the question of how does today's food environment change, or how would it alter the foods that we deem kosher or not? Obviously, the kosher laws that we follow have been in place for, I want to say millennia, but I don't know, like a really, really long time. And they were based on an industry that wasn't yet an industry. It was based on farming practices and small scale processing. But like, have they ever known that you could milk an almond and make milk? Would they know that oats could also be frothed up into creamy goodness on a latte? Did a latte even exist? Was pizza on their brain? Had they ever seen these things? Like it was such a different food landscape back then. And now it is 2022, nearing the end of 2022. And we are like making meat products that are so meaty that once I got an Impossible Burger out and I took it back because I was like, this is meat. And they were like, no, that's impossible meat. And I was like, that's impossible. They're like, yeah, it is possible. It is impossible meat. And it was a little bit confusing. I'm not going to lie, but to be in a position where I can order an Impossible Burger at Johnny Rockets in Cancun Airport, like I did this past March, that is absolutely wild. Like what a time to be alive, my friends. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it. Maybe I'm thinking not enough into it. But all I know is that I'm not interested in trying an Impossible Pork product. If I know that it's not pork, my family's kosher style. We don't buy everything that's kosher, and that's what works best for us. And so I think I would try it, but it would kind of confuse me and maybe make me a little bit more hesitant to know that it's not 100% okay. Right? I don't know how we would feel about it as a family, but I'm definitely open to trying for the spirit of science and experimentation. So let me know what you think. Shoot me an email at Micah@noshwithmicah.com or slide into my DMs on Instagram at noshwithmicah and let me know if you would try Impossible Pork or Impossible Bacon and how you feel about some of these products that are coming out and if they relate to you feeling comfortable eating them as a kosher style Jew, as a kosher Jew. And let's just talk about, is it possible to eat Impossible Pork as a Jew? So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. And stay tuned for more food-filled episodes of Not Your Bubby's Nosh. Not Your Bubby's Nosh is a part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network and is produced by Jew Folk Inc. For more shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast. If you've got questions, email me at Micah@noshwithmicah.com.